welcome to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, Live the Life You Want. I'm Jasmine, the Inspirers. I'm here hosting this podcast. We're now season 4. I can't believe it went so fast. And today I'm so happy to have Malene Colotla. How did I do? Was that good?
Oh, it was perfect, Jasmine. Thank you so much.
So
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you.
To my listeners, I want you to know that Malene comes from the Change Coaches. She did the Amy Johnson class. And so she comes from there. And I'm happy we had a conversation before we started because we never met. This is our first conversation. And she was telling me that she loves nature. And you guys know I love nature also. And so we're going to have a conversation about nature today. But before we get in and we dive in, Malene, tell people who are listening who you are, where you're from, because, you know, it's rare that we have another Canadian with me. I usually have USA.
Well, I guess I do live in Canada. That is true. I don't have my passport yet, but give me another 18 months or so, and I think I should have that one under the belt too.
Okay.
But rewinding a bit, I am originally from Denmark. I was born in Denmark and lived there pretty much my whole life up until 2017, where I went to Hong Kong with my husband and 3 children for 3 years and had a blast. It was a great experience. But my husband he was born in Canada with Mexican parents that ended up living in Vancouver. And so we had a long-term wish of moving to Vancouver. And in 2020, we kind of just made the jump. We pulled the plug on what we were doing in Hong Kong and we were like, it's now or never, let's get going. And so we moved to Hong Kong and
Canada.
To Canada.
Yeah. From Hong Kong.
All these countries.
Yes.
Yeah. No, we moved to Vancouver, which has been awesome. We're close to my husband's family, and we've had a great kind of welcome from the local community here. Kids are happy in school, and so it's already been a couple of years, so time flies.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe that the pandemic has lasted this long. So, I mean, I did my Super Coach Academy training in 2020. So I just can't believe half of 2022 is already passed. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know. Yeah, time flies. It's a funny relative thing, isn't it? You could do a whole episode on that one, Jess.
Yeah, exactly. So when we were talking, you were telling me that you've taken a class on, I think it was super interesting because we do these classes. We've been doing Zooms now for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And we're meeting all these people. And you were just like talking to somebody that had a little daisy and you were wondering what that was. Like, repeat that for my listeners. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Well, so during COVID, I did I think they call it the professional retreat by the Pranskys up in Laconer. And because it was COVID, it was online. So it was all these little Zoom images. And I noticed that a little delegation of green background with a little white daisy. And I was curious what that was about. And I was lucky enough to be in a breakout room with one of them. And so she let me in on the secret that they came from this environmental organization called Common Earth. And it's an organization that, works kind of from, I guess, with the mission of how we get to a post-carbon caring society. And what really excited me about it was that they're coming also from this understanding. So it's a kind of a very holistic approach to how to solve the climate. There is certainly a technical aspect of it, but this is kind of more, what mindset do we need to be in for us to be in a sustainable community together? And so I learned more about it and found out that they offered actually a free course, 2 modules, and I did them, and
Okay.
I loved it so much that they offered me to teach it, and so that's what I'm doing now, and also heavily involved in kind of the course development going forward. So it's really fun.
So tell me a little bit about it. Like, so what kind of mindset do we have to have? Or not, we
Yeah.
don't have to, but like, what is it that you've learned?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So there's a short answer and there's a long answer, right?
Yeah, well, let's say we have another 25 minutes, so maybe the short answer.
How about a medium?
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So what really became apparent to me when I was doing the course in Common Earth was we talk about kind of our whole cosmological journey. The universe emerged and how we emerged as humans from that. And so basically the whole emergence of life on our planet. And it's like the creation of form, through this amazing energy that just is living everything. And so what really became incredibly apparent to me was, one, how we're all coming from the same, whether it's the plants that's in the back of where you're sitting right now, or your cute little dog that's lying sleeping there, or you and I talking, we come from the same source. So that was like one really, really deep realization. And the second being, because of that, we are so interconnected here on the planet. Everything is interconnected. And the more that unveils, the more kind of the feeling deepens. For me, and I think for a lot of people that end up doing the course, because it's what you come away with. And what tends to happen is that people have a change of perspective. Like you just see everything differently. And I think I probably don't have to tell you, when you see things differently, you do differently. Like that's where you have really effortless change. And when it comes to the environment, well, it's just understanding that because we are so interconnected and because we really are all the same, if we do harm to nature, we do harm to us. So it's a different approach than, the usual advice that you're given, that remember to turn off the water, or, bike instead of drive, or whatever it is, right? Like it's more of an inside out approach, which I find is just so much more powerful. So it really is, I guess, a mission of changing the consciousness of people in how they approach themselves in the world, because again, it's 100% connected. Does that make sense, Jasmine?
Yeah, it does. I get it. I totally get it. So I'm going to tell you a story. It may seem, it may not seem, it's not really climate change related, but it's nature. It's like,
Yeah.
So last week, I saw a pigeon. There was a pigeon on my balcony.
Yeah.
And I have a dog and a cat. And my dog and cat can go in and out as they please, because I put a little door in my patio door.
Yeah.
And I saw that there was a pigeon on my patio, and I was like, what you doing, pigeon? Like,
yeah.
So I closed the door and I said, okay, he was just washing himself, I was like, okay, it's fine. It's okay. He doesn't need to go anywhere. So I closed the patio door because I didn't want the cat to go out and get him. So I do my work, and then I come back, and he's actually now now he's no longer washing himself. He's sleeping. He's settled on my patio and he's sleeping. And I'm like, that's weird. So I'm like, okay, you have to go away. So I get out of on the patio and I open the door and I think he's going to fly away. He doesn't fly away. So I walk up to him and he's just standing up and he's like kind of looking at me going, what do you want? And I'm like, dude, what you doing? So I want to shoo him away. He's not going away. So I kind of put my hand like this, thinking when I put my hand in front of him, he's going to disappear. He did not disappear. He climbed on my hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you do? What are you doing on my hand? So I put him on the side of the patio. He doesn't do anything. I put him back on my hand. And I'm like, if I make, if I give him some movement, maybe he'll put his wings out and he's going to fly off. But he didn't fly off. He fell off and he started walking. I said, okay, he's gone. So I closed the door again because I don't want the cat to go. And a couple hours later, I come back and he's back in the same spot, sleeping. And I'm like, so I have a friend who has pigeons. So I take a picture and I send them to him and I tell him the story. And he says, when he sees the picture, he says, Jasmine, that's a baby. Then as soon as he said, that's the baby, I was like, oh no, not a baby. Now I have to really take care of him. It was like this whole thing was happening.
Yeah.
And I've done this all my life. Like I remember finding baby mice and bringing them back home, like a whole bunch of baby mice, putting them in a Kleenex box and feeding them milk. And like, I've done that all my life. Yeah. And I've been made fun of all my life. Yeah. Because of it. So now I'm 52 and I'm still like, because I know people make fun of me, but what was really interesting because now this was the first time I could say, maybe the second time, but the first time was a kitty cat. And I was able to give that cat away very quickly. A pigeon, nobody wanted him. And I was just so disappointed by it. And I'm the kind of, like I take care of nature, I kind of like, I notice myself, like, and when I'm making my coffee, I put a little bit of water and then I put the water away. And then if I overtake water when I'm doing coffee, I put it in a pot and I keep this pot up and that water I give to my plant. I kind of do what I can. And I know that other people do way better than me, but I know that other people do way worse than me. And I've been recycling all my life and there's been a lot of things that occur. And so I do, what I can with the knowledge that I have. So that's why I was interested in talking to you because like I said, people make fun of me. And so I tend to not talk about this kind of stuff because I've been made fun of. That's the one thing. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about was because you were telling me that you did this course for children, like for schools. And I was really intrigued, like what do you talk about in school? I think it's fantastic. I have a girlfriend that's teaching, primary schools right now. And I think she's going to love this conversation because she listens to my podcast. So she's going to love this conversation. So what are you teaching the kids? What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, let me first comment on your beautiful little pigeon story there. Cause I just feel like it is such a perfect example of what we do when we feel a connection. When you feel a connection to another being or a plant or whatever it is, we have an instinct to want to take care of it because we feel connected to it. And that's really the simplicity of it, right? The more connection we feel to ourselves, to each other, to the world that we live in, we're just going to do better because we and like you also spoke to, you do the best you see to do,
Yeah.
But when you come from a place of connection, your doing will reflect that. And so you will act with compassion. So I thought that was actually a really beautiful example of exactly what it is we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, I'll just give you a feedback. He's still alive. He flew off.
Glad
He learned how to
to
fly.
hear.
2 days,
Wow.
and he learned how to
There
fly.
you go. That's awesome. I'm sure he felt the love. In regards to the youth curriculum that we've just piloted, and we had a pilot group basically during the spring with just a small group in Ontario. Common Earth is, although I'm in Vancouver, Common Earth is based out of Ontario in Toronto. And we have participants in the adult curriculum from, I think we're up to like 20 different countries in the world. It's quite international. But this youth curriculum is something we piloted with a small group of 10 to 12 graders in Toronto. And we ran 10 sessions of once a week for 2 hours. And it was all Zoom again. I guess not so much because of COVID anymore. Well, I was based here in Vancouver, so like I physically couldn't be there. But I have 2 colleagues that attended from Toronto. And the way that we structured the curriculum was really very much based on what I started out saying, and with the aim of establishing this feeling of how we all came from the same, and naturally through that seeing how we're all one, how we're all connected. And so the way that we try to tell the story, because it really is, it's kind of a narrative that you're trying to take them through, right? And for something to hopefully sink in. And so we start with, the how the universe came about and how humans evolved from that. And we really do a deep dive into when our symbolic consciousness started to evolve. So basically when we started to have the ability to imagine, to think, right? Which is, I think some people talk about like the cognitive revolution. But what did that do for Homo sapiens, right? Like we literally went from being this just another animal somewhere in the middle of the food chain to being, at the top of the food chain, because we started having the ability to plan, to imagine, to what started happening was, well, we went from being these kind of nomads to settling down and started working the land, and civilization was formed, and cities was built, and culture was shaped, and so on. And what we're really trying to have a conversation around is, what's the key ingredient here? And that's thought. It's literally that we started to have an ability to imagine and to build through thought. And what that points back to, so we go on from this and we talk about the scientific revolution and so on, but again with the reflection that all of this we see today is made up. Right? Like the society we live in today, the society that we build, the economy that we all kind of are a part of, the countries that we live in, all of that is something that we have made up. And that's mind-blowing. When you start to kind of really see that, that this whole, like we're at a point now where the imagination, or the how do you say, what we've built through our imagination. So we use, one of the resources we use is this work by Yuval Harari, is an Israeli historian. He wrote I think it was back in 2014 or so, he wrote a book called Sapiens, which is I highly recommend it. And from that, they made these really cool graphic comic books that the kids really like.
Okay.
And so one of the things that he says is, look, we're at a place now where our subjective reality is literally deciding the fate of our objective world. So, in other words, whether the rhinoceros survives or not is up to us. It's up to what we decide. In other words, it's up to our thoughts, right? Because we hold the power, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how we bring the role of thought into this whole game about the society that we've built. And then it's natural to ask, well, what are some of the consequences of the society that we build? There are many amazing things that we've accomplished, no doubt. But there is also some unintended consequences. And we're at a point now where, the planet is starting to give us some pretty clear feedback that it's not sustainable. Everything we're doing is not sustainable. And so it's maybe time to just pause and reflect a bit. What are we being told here? When we keep having, like in Vancouver last summer, we had this, crazy heat dome, and it looks like it's coming back this year. I think like the extreme weather phenomenons are just increasing. So, nature is trying to tell us something. And so to take the time to kind of reflect, well, what's going on? What is it that we're doing that's not working? And in that journey to see how a lot of that is really something that we made up to begin with. It's not something that's God-given. It's something that we've co-constructed over the last couple of 100 years. Is incredible. It gives an incredible sense of agency, because it points back to we can make a new narrative, and so that's part of what we talk about in the UK.
I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of scary. I'm making it up. I get it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like scary, and it's kind of like big. It's kind of like little old Jasmine living in Quebec has no idea what to do with that. So, what would you say to me, who's I'm doing the best that I can right here. I don't know how I can save the rhinoceros or the climate change. I really don't know. Yeah. So what do you Malene, do? How do you, because I've heard about the climate change, and I've heard about this, and I just kind of okay, just can't think about it. Do you understand? Because it scares me. And then I justify it with I won't be alive, and it's fine. It's in 100 years, I'll be dead. And I kind of justify it just to make me be able to deal to, because I know I'm making up the fear. And I'm making up the thing to stop the fear. You understand? It's I know it's all made up, but I would love to put my feet back down on the ground and just stop being in my head there. Is there anything that you can talk to with that? I don't know if anybody else listening is feeling like that, but I would love to hear what you say to that.
I love the question, and I absolutely feel you. I think for me, the greatest sense of freedom has really been coming to see how and I don't mean how made up climate change is, but how made up the mechanisms, the system that's behind the climate, that's triggering the climate change. Let's put it that way, right? And it's freeing in the sense we are in a system right now that's unsustainable. So that's definitely my clear feeling. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the truth, but that's my perspective. I can only talk to how what looks real, or what looks true to me, right? But I find it incredibly encouraging to know that it is a made-up system, you know, because it allows me to feel into the possibility of something new coming along, something new that we can all contribute to. Now, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Again, I can talk to what has been true for me.
Yes.
So learning about this, you know, one very real consequence for me was I cut animal products because I understood.
Sorry, your Zoom cut out right there. So
Oh,
we didn't
sorry.
hear that.
Yes.
What did that say? What did
Sorry.
you say?
Yeah, no, I said that. So one of the kind of day-to-day real practices for me is I cut out pretty much all of the animal products I would consume.
Really?
Just because I know that it has quite a big carbon footprint. Now that feels right to me. It may not feel right for someone else. So again, I can't tell people what to do.
No, I get it.
So it's really just an example. But what I would encourage you to do from a state of clarity is to get informed. You know, when you feel an anxiety and it feels like it's this big monster, it helps so much knowing what you just reminded us of, Jasmine, that it's thought in a moment. That's it, right? And the thought is only limiting to the extent that we believe it, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is such power in kind of knowing that, and from a place of clarity, seek out information. Because yeah, we have access to wealth of wisdom, but I also definitely believe that there is a lot of power to be gained in get yourself educated, getting yourself some knowledge about this and understanding what's actually going on. And from a place of wonder and curiosity rather than, oh, I need to do this and that, right? Because if it's wrapped in an anxiety, at least my experience is the options that are available just become so much more limited versus you having a feeling of, like I talked to in the start, you know, I'm a part of this. You know, I'm a part of this earth. I'm a part of the whole here. I want to understand what's going on, and then trust that you will be informed of what's the best thing you can do. I didn't make a conscious choice. I'm going to start eating meat. It just occurred to me, and it just felt right, and it has been completely effortless. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. Makes total sense. So let's talk about Common Earth then, because this is basically a perfect segue, because Common Earth, that's what they do, right? So tell people a little bit about tell me about Common Earth.
I'll be glad to. So Common Earth is as I mentioned, it's an environmental organization. It was formed a couple of years ago by the Patterson family in Toronto, and really with the mission of building a community that's interested in building a community for a post-carbon carrying society. So basically figuring out how do we, or I would rather say engaging in a conversation about how can communities thrive, not just now, but 100 years from now. And so one of the things that came out of that was this, for now at least, 2 modules course that is offered for free. Actually, it's 100% sponsored by Common Earth, and so we go through our cosmological journey. We talk about climate change. We dig into systems thinking, which is kind of a great way of making our thinking visible. So we look at feedback loops and iceberg models and kind of how our mental models are at the root of, our behavior. And because we also talk about the role of thought from the perspective of the three principles, or, what this, I would maybe rather say what the three principles are pointing to, right? We talk about, the made up nature of everything. And then in the second module, we go into the economic systems, the role of thermodynamics, and we talk a lot about solutions in terms of regenerative agriculture. And oh my goodness, that's a whole episode on its own, because it's such a beautiful illustration of how nature's got it all figured out. And how, if we just get out of the way, nature will take care of itself.
Yeah.
It's when we start applying fertilizer and tilling the soil that things go wrong, But if we get out of nature's way, it is this incredible intelligence that's at play, and it does all the work for us.
Well, I'm going to take it.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I would love that.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. We would love to have you. So our next session start in July 5th.
Okay.
So you can go to commonearth.com and sign up. And if there's not a good time there, I would think we start again. October is usually 4 times a year. So July, October, January, and April.
Is there replays? Or do you send out the replays?
No, we don't. Just because we do form, it's a group of around 12 people normally. And so we build a lot of community in our little groups.
Okay.
And so we want, that's kind of part of the experience. We do record the calls for the people that are not present, but they're not offered like us.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yes.
If I can't make it at the time, but you do have the replays that we can listen to after.
You can.
They're not public, but for the people who are taking the course there. Okay,
yes.
Okay.
But it is encouraged that that you're there. Like if it is. I will say this: it is a commitment in terms of time. We'll provide the resources. The only investment we ask that you do is the time to be there live and to, of course, do the pre-work. So, but it's worth it. I promise you. It's a absolutely wonderful experience.
Very cool. Well, Malene, I think this was a very nice episode. I think it was different, and I think that it was I'm really happy that you accepted. I had no idea we were going to talk about this. This is the surprise of having an assistant that gets you the guests, because I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about.
I love that. That's great.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put all of your information in the description, but is there a preferred way you would like, if people want to reach out to you? Is there a preferred way you would like them to reach out to you?
Yeah, so they're welcome to. I just launched a website for like my private coaching. So aside from my work with Common Earth, I also do have private coaching clients. And so I recently set up a webpage called Reimagine Next. Okay. So I think it'll be in your description as well. Yes. And there is an email there, info@reimaginenext.com, where you're very welcome to reach out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming.
That was absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jasmine.
It was fun. Everybody else, I hope that you thought this was as interesting as I did. And I'm going to sign off by telling you, dream it, dare it, do it, live the life that you want. And I'll see you next week. Bye.